Oh man, I think I've made a lot of mistakes and, on this journey, and I think I'm going to continue making mistakes, right? For me, I had this idea that, okay, well, I have a great idea. I have a pitch deck. Here it is. Give me money, right? So that was a hard lesson for me that I had to learn as far as building those relationships, as far as, de-risking your business to an investor to make it more investable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Profit to the People, the official podcast of Republic, where we believe you have the power to invest in the future you believe in. I'm your host, Lisa Carmen Wang, head of brand at Republic, and I'll be taking you behind the scenes to meet the team, founders, and investors in our community who share their insights on the future of investing and how they're bringing profit back to the people. To learn how you can invest, head over to republic.co and follow us on all social channels at Join Republic and at Lisa Carmen Wang. Today, I'm here with Pierre Laguerre. He's the founder of Fleeting and an entrepreneur with over 17 years of experience in transportation logistics. While generating more than $5 million in revenue through his transportation ventures, Pierre has successfully mentored young men who have gone on to earn their commercial driver's licenses and own their own trucking and dispatch operations. As a Haitian-born migrant, Pierre found his entrepreneurial passion in trucking. He started his journey as a truck driver, and since then, after excelling in the Quake Capital Startup Accelerator, Pierre has gone on to win pitch competitions with Harvard University, Chameleonaire, and Damon John, all while being a calm, collected head of household for his 3 young children. Today, he's founder of Fleeting, a platform that gives truck drivers the ability to operate like an owner-operator without owning a truck and dealing with the pain points of buying a truck. Pierre, welcome to Profit to the People.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Thank you.
So we have a bit of a personal connection from early on in the days when I was still building SheWorks, my first company. And tell me about how you met one of your investors.
Wow, man, that was an interesting story. So to kind of, before I even go back into that, so I had a really hard experience before I started building Fleeting. I was just recently injured. I came out the hospital and I had 67 staples in my head. I had a titanium plate in my head. And when everything was falling apart, I really said, okay, well, I've seen other companies in the space that was building great tools with technology to give, shippers better visibility, allowing shippers to move their freight a lot more efficient. But I didn't see there was a platform that was actually helping the truckers, the people that's responsible for moving our freight from point A to point B. And I felt that as a driver myself with 17 years experience, I felt like I was the right person for the job. Then I went into learning, hey, how do I raise venture capital? How do I build a tech company? And little we know, my very first event that I went to learn about building tech was the SheWork event. And to be honest with you, Lisa, I personally felt like, okay, well, maybe this is not an environment for me. I'm not welcome because it was only women. And thank God I was welcome in there, although I took the shot. And the reason I went there is because looking for an investor as a founder or minority founder, it's very hard to connect with those investors. And at the time, you had a great breakfast program that actually bring VCs in and really talk about the challenges and up and down. And I saw the very first investor that looked like me. I said, oh my God, Marcus, okay, this guy looked like me. I need to meet him. I need to learn everything that I need to learn to get into the venture space. And here I am just being one of the only dudes. I think if it was maybe 100 women, I would say there was probably about 3 dudes in there. And I was one of them. And although I was feeling ashamed, but I think it was a great experience. And that's the day that I actually met Marcus. Ever since then, he's becoming a mentor. He's been a great supporter for the past couple of years. And just recently, he decided to invest in the company. So really excited to be here and excited that I've took the leap of faith and saying, you know what, let me just attend, although I know it's just an all-women network. But I think you yourself did a great job by saying, hey, look, it's not just, although you was focusing on women, but I think your play was just really helping minorities finding their ways. And I think that was very helpful for a founder like me because I learned so much from that experience. And this is what leads me to be where I am today. So thank you so much for doing that, Lisa.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's so incredible to just hear that because Marcus Glover, who's a partner at Lockstep Ventures, who recently invested in Fleeting, was a mentor of mine for a couple of years. And so, of course, he's supportive of all underrepresented individuals and is a huge proponent of female founders. And so when I brought him in, I was like, share all your wisdom. And so even with, I think, all the initiatives that have been built, with SheWorks, it's never about exclusion, right? Everything is about collaboration over competition. And I think it was great to have men like you in that group who would come in and say, I'm here to hold space and to also learn and to learn from the women as well as the mentor who you've brought to the table. So I think it just shows us the power of community.
Absolutely. And I'm a big component of that. This is why even now our mission is all about community. I come from a community that's we will call a dangerous community. And from that community, I went on to become a trucker to be where I am today. And there's so many opportunities that we can go back to those same communities and create an ecosystem to where everyone have a chance to win. So I really appreciate that experience.
Yeah. What were some of the most important lessons you learned as a first-time entrepreneur? You know, as you said, there weren't many resources or mentors or people who you felt like looked like you. What were some mistakes you made and things that you wish you had known going in?
Oh man, I think I've made a lot of mistakes, and on this journey, and I think I'm going to continue making mistakes, right? But I think the lesson learned for me was not to be so hard on myself because you just don't know what you don't know. But I think one of the biggest lessons is understanding whatever it is that you want to build, whatever it is that you want to achieve. It's important to have champions, right? It's important for other people to really see the value in what you're doing and allow them to be your champion. So for me, early on, learning how to build a network, learning how to build relationship with investors was one of the very, very first lessons that I've learned in this business. For me, I had this idea that, okay, well, I have a great idea. I have a pitch deck. Here it is. Give me money, right? So that was a hard lesson for me that I had to learn as far as building those relationships, as far as risking your business to an investor to make it more investable. So I think there's a lot of lessons there to be learned, but also most importantly is, your company structure and any founders out there, looking to build a company, looking to raise capital. I would definitely say, make sure you speak to an attorney. I know it's hard when we're trying to start our businesses. Funds is not where we want it to be, but there's a lot of different services, startup services with attorneys that can help you. Those things are critically important. If you don't get them right, they can actually kill around. So for me is I've went through one of those experiences where, didn't have all the paperwork where it needed to be, and that could have potentially killed the deal. So I would say definitely the very first thing, or one of the things that I've learned and that I would share with founders, is make sure you have an attorney that can help you guide you through these muddy waters.
Mm. And to the point of the first point you made about networking, and especially with investors, what were some of the things that you did to solidify those relationships in the beginning and over time so that by the time you were ready to take an investment, they were bought in?
Yes, definitely. What the one of the best things we did was really keeping the communication line open, right? And a lot of what I've learned is investors who pass, they didn't pass simply because they didn't believe in you. They didn't pass because they don't believe in the business. It's probably sometimes it's too early, and timing is a very important thing that we have to learn when we're looking to raise capital. Different investors have different risk tolerance. So I think the learning was really, okay, how do I identify the investors in my stage right now that can give my company a look, as opposed to wasting their time. If they're Series A investors and I'm in a seed round, I don't want to waste that investor's time, but absolutely it's good to build a relationship with that investor and let that investor know, hey, look, this is where I am. This is where I'm building. As you a Series A investor, what is it that you would like to, what kind of metric that I need to have in this company to be able to de-risk it and make it investable? So I think by having those relationships with the early investors, although they didn't invest then, but keeping the relationship with them, being very honest with them is, I didn't come off like, hey, look, I'm the guy that know it all. I showed them like, hey, look, I know what I know, but there's a lot that I don't know, but I'm coachable. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to, understand and how to navigate my way in the ecosystem. So I think that resonated with a lot of investors because they didn't feel like, okay, well, this guy's not only just asking for money, but this guy is really asking, hey, look, how do I navigate my way through this? What is it that I need to have in place to be investable? So I think building the relationship with those VCs very early, because investors don't cut you a check on the first time they meet. They like to really build a relationship. They like to really learn the founders, learn what you're doing, and also progress, right? They want to see, okay, well, if I spoke to you, you was doing 100,000 in January. The next time I speak to you, it'd be great to give some update and say, hey, look, now we at 250,000. At least those investors, they stay up to date with what you're doing. But when you get to that position, so when you get to the point where they can put capital into your company, it makes the process a lot more easier because they already know you, they know the company, and they understand what you're building. So I think that was one of the great lessons learned working with VCs in this space, especially for somebody in my background, 17 years in trucking, did not know anything about this space. I've only been in this space for about 2 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then you've maxed out your crowdfunding campaign on Republic. So you had over 4,000 investors in your campaign. Tell us about your experience, building out that community and that network of investors.
Yeah, that community. I mean, I wouldn't say take all the credit myself. Definitely, the credit goes to Republic as well. Credit goes to angels, entrepreneurs and angels. Definitely. And there was another company. I can't remember the names of it now, but that campaign. What we learned was a lot of people didn't know that this opportunity exists. A lot of people didn't know that, hey, look, you can invest $1,000 in a startup, because we all feel like this is the saying that go, the rich keep getting richer while the poor get poorer, because the other investors, they have access to the, early founders to where they can invest at the seed round. But you have the rest of the public that really want to participate, that want to support founders of any background, but they just didn't know how or didn't have the tools to. So I think Republic really built a great platform that actually get all those people together to understand the power of investing. And for me, one thing I did well is I wasn't going around and telling people, hey, I'm on Republic, invest in my company. I took the approach of educating them what Republic is, what investing is about, and who win an investment, how does it work? So I think by taking that approach, it created a lot of success for our round, because once again, I wasn't saying, hey, go on Republic and invest. It was really educating them, hey, you should check Republic out. Even if it's not my own company that you want to invest in, you might find other companies that align with you that you may want to invest in. So I think that really, really created a good messaging and really create a community of people that really saw what I was doing. And I'm very vocal on social media as well. On Instagram is where I live, and I really educate my followers. And most importantly, truck drivers, right? Truck drivers was one of the biggest people that I wanted to be investors in a company. So I did a lot of time educating them on what Republic is and how they can invest and be part of that ecosystem.
And you talk about having spent 17 years experience in transportation logistics. At what point did you what was the impetus for you to say, okay, I should now start a startup around trucking?
Wow. No, that is a great question. So that for me, it was being a driver. Then I got tired of, not to say I got tired of being a driver, just being an employee driver. Then I purchased my own truck and became an owner operator, where I had owned my own truck and learned a lot at being an owner operator. Then after that, 6 months after becoming an owner operator, I parked my truck up and went and took a course at Wagner College for supply chain logistics. And what that course did, it kind of showed me trucking on a macro level, but I was much more eager to learn trucking on a micro level. So then again, I went on to build a staffing agency, which I scaled to 2.5 million in revenue, then also built a trucking company. Now, while running those multiple companies, I started really learning a lot about driver behavior, customer behavior, consumer behaviors. And then around that time, companies, I don't know if it's fair to say the company name, but a company like Convoy came out and raised capital for building a tech platform in trucking. But once again, what I saw that what they were building was, it was really serving the shippers, but I didn't see anything that was really speaking to the driver pain point, right? And I could just touch on those points. And this is exactly what forced me to go, okay, well, how do I apply tech? My divorce was because I was always on the road, Lisa. Never had time for my family, couldn't make birthdays, graduations. And truckers are spending 30 days on the road. They're only coming home to see their family twice out of that month. And you do have some truckers that work local, that work every day, but they work long hours, 6 days a week, 14 hours per day. And I really felt like, hey, man, this is an $800 billion industry. 74% of everything we touch across this country is moved by trucks. But yet the people that are driving those trucks, they really don't have no opportunity. There's no upward mobility. You start as a trucker, you die as a trucker. And then when I was seeing those other tech companies, once again, is not to take away from what they're building a great platform. But once again, they didn't really they may come from the supply chain world, but nobody really have the driving experience of being in the truck, of seeing what goes in and the day out. And I really felt like I was the man for the job. I felt like, hey, look, if I understood the pain well enough, I've been part of the pain, and I keep hearing it every day. And I saw that as an opportunity that no one was paying attention on. And as an entrepreneur, wherever there's chaos, there's an opportunity to cash in. And I saw that as an opportunity to bring technology into the market. Although trucking is very outdated, and you can see that some people in trucking resist technology. But I think for me, it was just more not coming and saying, hey, I'm going to build tech to take away your job. But I felt like it was the time to build a platform that give anyone, whether it's a driver or as a motor carrier or shipper, we want to give them the tools to operate their businesses a lot more efficient. So I saw the gap, and I felt like I was the right person to do the job. I can relate to truckers, and I can relate to their pain points.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think the best companies always come out of people who have direct experience with the pain point, know the ins and outs of the logistics and the psychology of the people affected by it. And so, clearly you, as you mentioned, you felt like you are the man to create this company. And I think so often it's, especially in the early stages of companies, it's about the founder fit. Like, is this the right person to create this company? Is their life dedicated to it? And do they understand every detail about it?
Absolutely. And I can say I understand every details in trucking. And I think that's one of my biggest competitive advantage against any other companies in the supply chain, because once again, everybody have this approach that, everybody has commoditized the driver. They don't look at the CDL driver as a true valuable partner. And I think once again, that was an opportunity for us to come in and understand, okay, well, those people are the one responsible for moving from everything to point A to point B. Why are they being treated as, second-rate citizens? And once again, I felt like I had a moral duty and moral obligation to bring something better to the market.
So why did you choose to go the route of equity crowdfunding?
Oh man, great question. As we all know, definitely, and it's just not a secret. It's very hard for minorities to raise capital. It's very, very hard. And there is a lot of companies out there that say, hey, look, we all for minorities, we all want to support women. But as soon as you go, it's like, there's always something that prevent an investment. I don't know what it is. And for me, Republic was, okay, well, this is actually a great tool, not only because you can get money from a crowdfunding source, but also those can be your biggest champion. There can be also your customers. They can be your users. So for me I've seen how truckers are being treated in the country. They really don't have those opportunities. So I said, well, if we here building a company that can potentially become a multi-billion-dollar company, I would love for truckers to be investors in that company. But unfortunately, it's very hard for me to go around and collect $1,000 check from 5,000 truckers. So Republic, that crowdfunding tool, makes sense to have all the drivers into the platform. So for me, it was the reason I really went through the crowdfunding. Once again, and not to say that we didn't want the public to participate. I wanted truckers to have a way to become shareholders in the company, and Republic did exactly that. But also not only just truckers, but now we also have the consumers. I'm pretty sure everyone shop online, everyone buy groceries. And I think the message the messaging was really relatable to a lot of people in this country, and felt like, man, this is trucking. You may not know when you're using trucking, but really and truly, we all use trucking every day. So it felt like everyone would relate to that story, and everyone will feel like, okay, well, this is something that can potentially affect me if it doesn't exist. And I think that's what a lot of people saw the opportunity. And for me, I saw the opportunity to go in there to raise the capital. And when you building a startup, right, like they said, the biggest thing to do is to not ever run out of capital. And as hard as it was to raise VC money, but also the giving other people the opportunity to be shareholders in that company, that's the reason why we went towards the Republic route.
Amazing. And you successfully closed that round. You maxed out your entire equity crowdfunding campaign. And then you recently brought in some other big name investors. So tell me about the money that you've raised.
Yes, definitely. So we just brought in Lockstep Ventures, the Loeb NYC team, and Kyrie Irving. And I think it was really, really resonated with them. What is it that we were building here? And I think a lot of VCs will see that. And I'm an open book. And I would definitely tell people, hey, look, I'm not afraid of saying, hey, look, here's my challenges, here's my bottleneck, this is where I need support at. And I think Lockstep and the Loeb family and Kyrie Irving really saw the opportunity, but they also see what was lacking as far as, a company being funded by a minority really didn't have access to a lot of resources. They didn't have too much of a huge network. And they saw that and said, hey, man, how can we come in and roll our sleeves and be part of this company? And as you know, Kyrie Irving, he's very community driven. So is Marcus, very community driven. And absolutely the Loeb NYC family, very community driven. So when they saw that we building this, not just for existing truckers, but also, hey, look, how do we go to marginalized communities? How do we go to underserved communities and give people an opportunity to become truckers? And I believe that message really resonated with them well. And they decided to roll their sleeve, not only investing, but really providing $1 million of worth of shared services as far as office space, pretty much HR services, marketing. So I think they really saw what we were doing, and it felt like, hey, look, instead of just saying, hey, look, we want to help minority founders and, put out a PR, they actually rolled their sleeve and got the job done. So I'm really appreciative of that, and I look forward to what's to come.
Yeah. And that's also another point that I want to point out, which is that for entrepreneurs, when we're looking at investors, a big part of it is making sure we ask the question, what value are you bringing to the company? Yep. Right? It's the social capital that the investors are bringing as well. So have you found ways to, leverage the social value and social capital of your investors from your equity crowdfunding campaign?
Yes, absolutely. And the great thing about the crowd equity funding, which I think a lot of people might kind of like slept on, is that those people that are investing, a lot of time they're in high C-level position at other companies that may be looking for a solution that you're building. So I think that was really the great part about it is find a lot of champions on Republic that was really making intros, getting us connected with other companies. So I think this was really, really a great way of really getting into the door. But that was very helpful because like you said, social capital is very important. And a lot of times, like I said, you could take a money from a VC, they'll give you $250,000. And it's a business, right? It's not like the VC is not going to spend the entire year after they give you 200,000 and trying to help you build a company. It is your job as the founder to really put the hustle on and build a company. So I think that really kind of helped balance it out. When you have VCs that give you money is great, but when you have VC that give you money, but also bring you a level of support to help you build your business, I think that's where that's exactly where the real juice is at. It's really not a VC that's going to say, here's money, get out of my office, give me an update 3 months later or a year later. But it's those VCs that really roll up their sleeves and say, okay, well, how do we get this thing going? Those are the real champion. And I think is every founder needs to have at least 2 or 3 of those champions in their portfolio.
And what's next for Fleeting as you look forward to how you're going to deploy this capital and how you're going to grow?
Yeah, definitely. So we're definitely going to do a lot of customer acquisition, a lot of more driver acquisition. Definitely want to focus more on product. We want to expedite our product to be able to be in a better sense to kind of do Series A towards the end of the year or probably early next year, January. But for the most part, it's definitely kind of, growth, marketing. And also our next initiative is, once again, helping formerly incarcerated men and women and marginalized communities. The challenge is that is the transportation industry, although it's an $800 billion industry, Lisa, is very outdated. It's very fragmented, heavily regulated. And we have a shortage of 9,000 drivers today. And I find that appalling that we have marginalized communities where young men and young women looking for opportunities, but they don't know which way to turn, right? About 250,000 formerly incarcerated men and women are free into the street annually, but they don't have housing, they don't have employment opportunity. And I saw that as I said, you know what, this is not making sense. How can this country short 900,000 drivers? Meanwhile, you have a pipeline of people looking for opportunities. So we felt like this was an opportunity to bridge the gap, to really train them, provide them with the curriculum, teach them about safety, get them back into reentry into society. And I think everyone too also should really question where your tax dollars are going, because there's a lot of people that's catching records, and really their life is kind of in a sense where they can't really do anything with their lives, and being incarcerated for, once again, not crazy, violent felony crime, people getting arrested for petty drug charges and they get record messed up and they can really get employment nowhere. And they end up giving up on life. And I felt like as a community, as a society, we all have a homework. We all have a moral duty to really protect, because at the end of the day, if we don't do it this way, guess what? Our tax dollars is going to go into the prison system anyway. So I'd rather take the tax dollars to really educate and uplift and give them the opportunity. And I always say this, right? We live in the country, we live in a world where we see people destroy lives for profit. And for Fleeting, we want to actually build lives while making a profit.
Yeah, and that's so amazing, because I think one of the things that we at Republic, our deep value is that passion and profit are not mutually exclusive. And part of that is bringing power and profit back to the people. And I think that you're doing that. And I always love speaking with entrepreneurs who are, making sure that they're doing well by their investors and ensuring that they're becoming a profitable company, but also very squarely rooted in their mission to create a better world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, I became a trucker, Lisa, because once again, I was trying to escape a dangerous community, right? I didn't want to become a statistic, didn't want to become a product of my environment. And I can guarantee you there's millions of men and women that's facing the same challenge, that don't want to become a statistic, that don't want to become a product of their environment, but they just don't have that support. They don't have somebody that can say, hey, look, come here, let me show you a different way. Even for me, I didn't have one. I had to really make the way. And eventually I did find some people. So I want to actually go back to those communities and give that same opportunity to those young men and women.
That's great. And so you closed your campaign in July 2020, and that was just in the midst of everything that was happening with George Floyd and the rise of Black Lives Matter movement. Tell me about how that affected your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely affected my campaign in a positive way. And, rest in peace to George Floyd and his family. This is not something that I'm saying I'm going to celebrate, but I think what George Floyd death did, it really exposed to this country, the racial inequities that exist in this country, especially when it comes to men of color, women of color. And I think around that time, I think the Republic community also felt like, oh my God, we have a moral obligation. We have a moral duty to support Pierre because, hey, look, everything is right here in front of our face. We've really seen what's happening. So I felt like the community of Republic felt like, hey, look, we have to put our money where our mouth is. And everyone went crazy and really invested in that company. We actually maxed out the campaign and still had an additional 1,000 investors looking to invest, but the round was closed. But once again, outside of the marketing, outside of everything that we did, but I believe that George Floyd had a lot to do with our campaign because once again, they exposed the racial inequity in this country. And once again, a lot of investors really, it was a time where America really came together in a sense where nobody cared if you was Black, if you was white, if you was Asian, Hispanic. It just felt like, okay, hey, look, this is a time we put our heads together and support another brother. So it really felt good. And I think Republic is really leading that front. And I just pray to God, you guys continue leading that. And however, whatever it is that I can do to be part of this ecosystem, I want to continue to be part of it because there is a great success story that came out of it. And I think we're going to create better opportunities. Unfortunately, we don't want another person to be killed to really sow those opportunity. And I think this is it. But I think now the world is really seeing how do we support other businesses because brown founders, women founders has the ability to build great businesses as well, as long as they have the support system as their counterparts.
Yeah. And it's so important to realize how we need those catalysts sometime to wake up.
Yes.
Right. And actually recognize the change that needs to be created. And so for you, how do you see yourself as a role model and, the responsibility there that you have as already closing out your campaign and being a Black man who maxed out his SEC equity crowdfunding campaign and is now building a, high growing business?
Man, I would definitely say the one word to describe that is pressure, right? Pressure being a role model is after a while, people forget that you're also humans, right? And you make mistakes and you have people looking at you from a different lens. But what I would say is that, hey, look, I'm still human. I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes, but however, I will own them and try to be a better person all the time. But I think the message that I do want to send to, once again, not just minority founders or founders, male founders, but I just think to entrepreneurs, period, or the entire world, period, is that, being a role model, you have to constantly now think that, okay, this is not about you. For me, I had to learn that it is not about me. My story, my trial, my pain, everything that I've experienced wasn't solely about me. It was about being able to inspire others to change, right? I can't force change on anyone. So being a role model will allow somebody or will inspire somebody to change. So that's one of the best things, the best qualities about being a role model, because once again, you're not forcing change on anyone. You can inspire everyone to change. So I think I really love it. Although it comes with a lot of pressure, I feel like I'm walking on eggshell, but at the end of the day, I think it's for a great cause because if the community that I grew up in, and I saw young men that was walking on eggshell, being very careful about their personality, about their persona, who they are, I think we'll have a totally different now change. So although it can be pressure at times, but I really appreciate it. And this is exactly what I want the world to see. I want people to understand, hey, look, man, there's times that we all have to put our grown man pants on and do what grown-ups do and just really, we can't be victim all the time. So we just have to be responsible. We have to be accountable. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that I want to send across to all founders, all communities is be accountable, be responsible and own it, right? And one last message I will leave to them is, look, the best thing ever invented is 24 hours. And with 24 hours, we have the ability to change our perception. We have the ability to change our surrounding and eventually change our reality. So I think that's very important, being a role model. And I want all the children, all the entrepreneurs, anyone in this world to know it's very important to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Every day you wake up, there's an opportunity to be a new person, the person Absolutely. That you want to be.
The best version of yourself every day.
Well, I'm so impressed with what you've done to date, and I'm really excited to see the future of Fleeting and where it all heads. My final question to you, Pierre, is what does it mean to you to bring profit back to the people?
Man, bringing profit back to the people, to be honest with you, what it means is, once again, not just on a monetary side, but also on a social impact side, right? And it means for me is, once again, not just bringing our investors a profit, but I think bringing our investors a profit to where they say, hey, man, we actually did some goods, right? We didn't just destroy lives. We didn't just eliminate jobs, but we actually did some good. So for me, that's going back to those communities. I have 3 beautiful children that, and I want them to understand the power of giving back because you don't know where they may be tomorrow. And I would love for the community to support them as well, and I have sisters, which is, women that's entrepreneur. My daughter's 11 and she wants to be an entrepreneur. And I already know the challenges, that's already set before her to become a female entrepreneur. So I think by giving the power back to the people is eventually somebody will potentially see my daughter as someone can say, well, you know what? I can help this person get up there. So it's just all about each one, teach one, and it just have to start somewhere. So that's what it is for me, just bringing the power back to the people, give them the opportunity to be able to compete and make something out of themselves, because this country have a lot to offer, and we just have to find ways to allow people to tap into it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Pierre.
Thank you, Lisa. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on everything you've been doing. Thank God for She Work, because I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you. This podcast is provided for educational purposes only by Republic and Republic.co. Nothing discussed should be construed as legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. The views of the presenters may not be the views of Republic and its affiliates. Always consult with trusted professional advisors before making investments. Private investments are inherently illiquid and may result in a total loss. All rights reserved.